anxiety and its artificial intelligence aided diagnosis. It's all very intriguing. So, do you know if you've got this under control?
Yeah, I think so.
I never do, so it's best left in the hands of the computer scientists, right?
So hi everyone, I'm David. I'm from computer science. I'm a PhD student. And today I'm going to share a story with you. The story of an emotion lives in our brain. You may ask, oh wait a minute, you are from computer science, but you are talking about emotion and psychology. Yes, actually my research is a combination of computer science and psychology. So in the next 10 minutes, I will give you a tour of my research and its latest outcomes. So first question, which emotion are we talking about? I will give you a clue. So this emotion helps us to avoid dangerous things. So it is one of the essential emotions lives in our brain. And trust me, without this emotion, human won't live so far on this planet. That is anxiety. Because, for example, I see a tiger and I feel pretty happy in the story, right? I could be the dinner. So I should feel anxious and run away. So anxious help me to avoid these dangers. Oh, I see that far away, I run away. So here, so alive. So in the first part of my talk, I will introduce anxiety and clinical anxiety disorder. And then I will talk about, as a computer scientist, talk about how to use computer science method, artificial intelligence, to help the diagnosis of clinical anxiety disorder. So let's get started. So the story started 70 years ago. At that time, trust me or not, anxiety was a culture. You had books, albums, and movies all about anxiety. And people realized that clinical anxiety disorder is heart disease. It's very harmful for human health. And 70 years has passed. You see HIV and cancer continue to be managed successfully, and the people now live in pretty normal life now. But for anxiety disorder, that's a different story. This is the data provided by the World Economic Forum. You see, by the year 2030, mental illness, including anxiety disorder, ranking number 1, cost about 6 trillion, more than 6 trillion US dollars. The good news is, now scientific research has found that, okay, anxiety disorder is not just something abstract. Actually, it has biological causes in the human brain. And the bad news is, the traditional diagnostic method is questionnaire-based, which means it cannot find specific biological causes. For example, if a guy feels anxious, and the doctor will give him a questionnaire like this. And the guy will answer questions like, do you feel sad every day? And then the doctor will diagnose this guy based on his subjective answers, but not objective biological causes. So you see, if a doctor cannot find these biological causes, how can he give effective treatment? So that's the question now. And to help you guys better understand this situation, this limitation of this questionnaire-based method, I give you another example. So what happened when we diagnose heart disease? So what happened? We only use questionnaire, we use questions. So doctor may use details, right? There's no detail about the biological causes, so no details. Is there any alternative way to diagnose heart disease? Doctors use electrocardiograph signal, the ECG signal. Boom, 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 boom. You see electrical signal. So you see, by analyzing the normal pattern and abnormal patterns like this, then the doctor can make a decision. This is some biological causes. Okay. So now you see, the key point here is electrical signal that carry biological information. Is there any equivalent signal in our brain? That's your brain wave, your EEG signal. We call it EEG signal. So this is the EEG signal because it's generated by our brain wave, by our brain activity, and we use this EEG cap. This is the signal looks like. And it contains information like mental status, your emotion, your sadness, happy, or anxious levels. But it is very hard for people to just see the patterns. It is very hard because there are two problems. One is there are many channels. Unlike the heartbeat signal, we have about 32, 64, or 128 because we have different areas of the brain. The second problem is the features are very tiny and full of noise. For example, here there are two EEG signals. I believe partly for human, it's very hard to find some consistent patterns. But if we use data analysis method, we can see the patterns are quite different. So this round circle is the profile of the brain, and you can see the red area is the activation area of the brain, like this area, this area. So here, we need signal analysis method to help us detect the anxiety patterns in our brainwave. So here comes this computer science part. So as a computer scientist, I use artificial neural network. Why? Because artificial neural network is very good at detecting signal patterns. You guys must be very familiar with it because you take it with you every day. Your mobile phone, your Siri, your voice assistant. When you say hi to Siri, then your voice signal transfer to electrical signal in the phone, and then the neural network help to find the patterns and make a decision. It has been validated. It is very useful for this signal pattern detecting task. So what happens if I feed EEG signal with anxiety patterns, with anxiety information inside, feed into our specifically designed artificial neural network? Can this network help us to find the patterns? That's my research question. And my job is to design, implement, and test a specific architecture to locate the patterns in EEG signal. If I feed EEG signal in, and then it can give me significant patterns. And since it's used for detect the anxiety patterns in EEG signal, and I call it anxiety decoder. And this is part of the result of my research. And we have several participants with different anxious levels, and we feed EEG signal in one by one. And then the network tells us the significant patterns of this participant. And interestingly, specifically for these people with high anxious level, we find the same patterns just as the psychology department do. So this pattern has been validated by the psychology department and are consistent with the anxiety theory. So that's pretty much my research, and let's do a little bit summary here. First of all, I talk about anxiety and the clinical anxiety disorder. And then I talk about the shortage of the questionnaire-based method, and there is an alternative way, the brainwave. And I designed an AI-based method to recognize the biological causes in brainwave. And my paper has been accepted for publication, and I'm going to Hungary next month to have a presentation. So this conference is an A-level conference, very good conference in computer science, and it is the largest high-initial event in the field of computational intelligence in the world. Most important, I will present my Otago original research to the world. So finally, I would like to thank the committee for giving me this chance, and also thank all of you for listening. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, David. Do you have any questions? Yep.
Artificial neural networks are quite well known to overfit to the training data, and I'm wondering, it seems like a small sample size that you've got there. Is that just for illustration purposes? What was your sample size, and how are you coping with the fact that artificial neural networks is something that's well known to overfit to data?
Yeah, good questions, thank you. First of all, the sample size is about 3,000 samples, yes, for the training set, and I used 300 for testing. It's a cross-validation. And for the overfitting problem, we embed several techniques to avoid the overfitting, like drop out. Yeah. So the result is threefold cross-validation, which valid this is not overfitting result, yeah, because it valid in different fold. And also we check the loss curve to avoid. I mean, there are several ways to check whether it's overfitting or not. Yeah. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'll ask one about your training set as well. So when you train the data, then are you training it based on the results of the questionnaires? Of the questionnaire saying this is a person with high level of anxiety, therefore that will be included as a subject that has high level of anxiety in the training set. How much uncertainty is there? Because there's uncertainty in the questionnaire method, how much does that propagate into your method? If that makes sense?
Yes, that's a good question. Thank you. Yeah, the key things here.
Yeah.
Because the questionnaire, the label here is two subjective answers, right? Like this guy has a high level anxious, this is a score.
Mm-hmm.
So the specific number is not important. For example, this guy got 60, which is quite high. That guy got 55, which is still quite high. But I deal with this problem not as a regression problem.
Mm-hmm.
It is a classification problem.
Okay.
So this is a threshold. Yeah. If they higher than this, so yeah, this kind of eliminates the noise. Yeah.
Okay, great. Any final quick questions? I just want to comment, it's nice to reframe anxiety as a positive thing. Really think about this, about them running away from targets. So thank you very much for that. So please join me again in thanking David for a great talk.